You can try to claim more daylight hours, and there's not enough windshield time or daylight time, or you can figure out how to be quote unquote face-to-face at scale. And that's what we...
Back to today's Medical Sales Leader, a show where we explore the dynamic world of medical sales and the innovative minds shaping its future. So today I've got a real treat for you, because not only is he someone who I have admired from afar all the way down there in God's green acre, but today he's agreed to come on with me to share everything between his layoff journey, why you need to be paying more attention to the scientific reasoning behind virtual selling, and so much more. So welcome, Matthew Ray Scott. I'm so thrilled to have you on the show today.
Yeah, Claire, I'm like one of your biggest fans. It's an honor to be on here.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me brag on you a little bit. Matthew served as an Army officer. Thank you so much for your service, serving as a captain in the famed 82nd Airborne Division and as a psychological warfare officer. Upon leaving the military, he worked for KLS, Martin, Medtronic, Nuvasive, Smith & Nephew, and Macropore Biosurgery. So a lot of the companies that those listening today have either worked for or are interested in. So really close to the vest here. Matthew has served in all levels of sales leadership. So that includes VP sales and now his own company. After helping to sell or co-sell a biotech company for 16 times the earnings to Medtronic, congrats, amazing accomplishment, Matthew launched Feed. And today, Matthew is the principal and managing director of Feed. He was voted #1 in the healthcare agency category by the American Marketing Association for Best Cause Marketing Advertisement, National Addy Awards, Prince Regional Design Annual, New York Art Directors Club Annual and Show, Clio's One Show, Telly Awards, Communication Arts Design Annual, AIGA 365. Holy smokes, Matthew, what haven't you won with your expertise? But his entrepreneurial journey from Army paratrooper to healthcare entrepreneur was featured in the best-selling book, Escape from the Cubicle Nation. And that is one of the primary reasons I have him on today. Because if there's somebody who I deeply respect, who has not just come up with incredible advertising and sales theories, but has lived through some really tough times to take us from the beginning of that tough journey to today, it's Matthew Ray Scott. So if I may, I would love to jump in here first, because one of the things that if anybody follows you on LinkedIn right now, they will hear you sharing video about is virtual selling. And you guys, right before we jumped on here live, Matthew and I were just talking about how gone are the days that we will have to really set up meetings with each other, because we'll just start getting more comfortable, hopefully, with video back and forth. So Matthew, tell me about your approach to virtual selling, and also why it's important for people to pay attention to the science, particularly with the amygdala.
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Claire. I appreciate being on here with you. So here's what personalized videos are. They're trust triggers. And COVID during that social isolation was really a wake-up call for most of us. So all of us, whether you're in sales or whether you're transitioning into one career move to another, we're all in the business of engaging busy decision makers. So COVID hit, we enter into social isolation, and then we get the all clear sign. Now, here's what really happened. We as consumers, we as decision makers, we reached a point where we were constantly being engaged by email, by voicemail, you name it. What really happened, Claire, during COVID is we entered a season where busy people said, here is the price you pay for being boring. Indifference. I'll blow you off. I will not pay attention to you. You are indifferent to me because you're part of the sea of sameness. So for me, right at COVID, I began to explore personalized video. And because I do have that psychological warfare, behavioral psychology background, I looked at personalized video as a narrative transportation. How is personalized video received differently than the same traditional measurements that we use? And what I began to discover was that the human brain really can't tell the difference between, Claire, whether you and I are face-to-face in the same office or whether we're speaking to one another virtual live. The human brain can identify, oh, wow, I feel like I know Claire, I like her, and I really trust what she has to say. Now, compounded by the fact that when you and I send personalized video, we are virtual and time shifted. You see, I can make a video for you 7 days ago, but when you receive it today at 7:01 a.m., you feel like I was hyper personalized 7 minutes ago, which I was. It's just that from the time that I created it to the time that you received it, and here's a biggie, on your own time, from anywhere, at any time. So people get it twisted. They think that I'm talking about personalized videos and that what we teach at Virtual Sales RX is all about making creative videos. What we're teaching is how to punch people in the amygdala, create a mental stop sign with zero editing. We use a $19 a month software called Vidyard, so it doesn't break the bank. And what we're doing is we're decreasing the amount of time that it takes for people to get to know, like, and trust us. And you see, trust is our real currency and our reputation is our bank account. So if you buy into that psychological profile, then Claire, the people that you're reaching out to who need to trust you before they hire you, why not use a virtual and time shifted measure with the convenience of this item that we all have in our pocket or this webcam in which you and I are speaking? Why not decrease the time that it takes for them to feel like they know, like, and trust you? So for me, in closing, I stop asking for appointments. I stop selling, comma, that was for dramatic mental pause there, comma, I give away my best ideas for free in 1 minute or 2 minutes. I send it to you, Claire, LinkedIn direct message, email. And I figure if it's a priority and pain point and it's in alignment with what I do to help remove that pain, you're going to want to talk to me. And that's the theory behind Virtual Sales RX. And you're right. We've trained over 20,000 people, Claire, from all walks of life. We focused because we were medical sales people. Initially, we created Medical Sales RX to highlight the unique specialty of that. We have since brought on 21 people, Claire, to join our team. And we are training everything from interior decorators to psychology practices, to law enforcement, to real estate, to certified financial professionals with the consistent medium of how personalized video decreases know, like, and trust. So that gives you a walkthrough there, Claire.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny how so much has changed. since the days of selling at the scrub sink, and certainly for those other industries as well. But some things don't change. And, if we were to beat a dead horse, essentially, it still applies that we're building the know and the like and the trust. So I love your approach. I think it's really smart. And since I know that you love to give your best stuff away for free, can you maybe give us a few of the emotional drivers of your prospects, or why your style of doing video is a little different? Because I see a lot of people gently dipping their toe into this industry, into this medium of reaching people, but there's an art to it. And I suspect that you have some specifics that you're really reaching for with each of those videos. Can you share more about that?
Yeah. Can we start with what does not work first?
Yes.
All right. Here's what doesn't work. If you say the same lame stuff that you used to say in your boring text-based fat paragraph emails, it will not work just because you show your bright face and eager tonality. It'll fall on deaf ears. So what I mean by that is that many of us, myself included, coming from medical sales and transition to other areas, we were taught a fallacy. The fallacy is, if you err on the side of persistence and persuasion, I can persuade you that what I sell is better. So COVID hits, the plague as we know it. Everybody, including you and I, gets triple the amount of voicemail messages, text, emails. We are distracted. We are disengaged. So now you and I come along and we develop what we call narrative transportation. Simply put, at Virtual Sales RX or Medical Sales RX for medical people, people think that we're training sales professionals on how to create personalized videos. We are not doing that. Rather, we are teaching people how to send trust triggers at the speed of trust. So let me answer your question. Here is what you need to know about crafting a message in 1 minute or 2 minutes. And then, of course, there's variations. You need to start off with a hyper-personalized observation. Hey, Claire, I noticed that you're an expert in helping people like me transition from here to there. Hey, Claire, I noticed that you helped out my buddy, insert name, cross the chasm from here to there. Hey, Claire, I love your podcast. You had a guest and something that they said in response to your question triggered an aha moment for me. So we start off with a hyper-personalized observation. And then, Claire, you're going to love this. We punch them in the amygdala. No one told you and I that you can punch somebody in the amygdala. Let me give you an example. My favorite way to punch people in the amygdala is to make a pain point statement. It goes something like this in my world. Typically, when I talk to orthopedic surgeons like you, there are two prominent struggle areas that may even keep you up at night. So I come in with a pain point. Pain point number one, you're just spending way too much money on traditional marketing. Pain point number two, you're trying to be a full service practice when there's not a patient in America who's waking up looking for a full service orthopedic surgeon. Rather, they're hoping that you can become the specialist in the specialty. So you see what I did there? I entered a pain point. Claire, I kid you not, today I sent a personalized video. And for the listening audience, I in no way want you to think this is snarky or disrespectful, but it was this simple. Hey, Dr. Scratch and Sniff. I went to Google and respectfully, you have 7 patient reviews and the highest rating is 3.5. Want to know what your ideal patients are thinking? Question mark. And then I ended with, typically, if this is a priority or pain point, it may make sense for you and I to chat. You see, it took me 20 seconds to do that.
Yeah.
I think that from the outside looking in, people are like, oh, Matthew is, verbose. Matthew can communicate. When, to answer your question, you and I must slay lazy words. You and I must eliminate the dullness of our communications. So to answer your question, what we teach at Virtual Sales RX is how personalized video builds trust, differentiates you, and ultimately, we know, statistically speaking, Claire, that when you use personalized video, you're going to get more engagement than the 93% of the market that's sending boring emails.
Yes.
And so that formula that's just one formula that we teach in cold outreach. It works really, really well, not because you and I are gifted communicators. Quite the opposite. The reason why it works so well is you and I focus on how other people want to receive information.
Yeah.
You and I focus on how other people want to buy from you and I. Everyone else, Claire, they're focused on how can I sell this person something. But you and I and the team at Virtual Sales RX, we don't do that. So hopefully that can help your viewers understand the mindset of a 1 minute, 38-second video.
That's such a brilliant point. And I love the transition. And it's such a natural one after all of us were apart from COVID. It almost felt as if, and I should preface this with, I'm married to a provider. So like having been on the sales side, having seen him, be approached and sold from both sides, right? And understanding both worlds now, it's almost if COVID gave us some breathing room to finally break the mold of how we were traditionally spoken to and sold to. And we finally were separated enough, which for better or for worse, but we were finally separated enough where we could say, I don't want to, I'm done. I need a break. And so for me, I've watched this radical shift of people like you who are really coaching people to master not just video, because really anybody listening here, Matthew's not just talking about being great on video. He's talking about understanding from a behavioral engineering standpoint, how people want to be spoken to and what it is they're actually dealing with, where traditionally we sell based on what comes down from the marketing team, which, hey, they're doing a great job as well. But I'm curious if you think that when it comes to medical sales professionals and when they're needing to approach with a specific message that comes down from marketing, do you feel like those are enough and that representatives or managers typically have what they need for that kind of an outreach touching on those pain points? Or do you think that the hyper-personalization piece is something that reps individually need to go after and find out? Like, tell me where are people really getting the grit of their message from? Is it internal or external research, I guess?
Yeah, so for the past 4 years regarding medical sales, to my knowledge, we have more statistical knowledge than anyone on the impact of personalized videos in the medical sales process. Here's what the data points. And here's what my experience on the psychology side of the house points. Now, let me preface this. I've been in medical sales since 1994. I am ride or die medical sales. And I'm here to tell you, we are in trouble. And let me tell you why. Medical salespeople are in trouble if they fall into the following criteria. Your boss tells you the answer is to make more calls. The answer is to get face-to-face. The answer is to drop off more brochures to Gloria the Gatekeeper. The answer is to stock doctors at the scrub sink. If you hear that, you are in trouble. Now, here's the second parameter. Nobody can argue with me when we say our doctors over the past several years busier, limiting access to medical sales reps in the hospital and at the office. Nobody can deny that. So Claire, here is the viewpoint that I get from people like me who have gray hair and who used to be VP of sales like I used to be. Here it is, Claire. Well, Matthew, there's no replacement in medical sales for being face-to-face. And here's what I say to my brethren who is my age. You're 50% correct. The 100% answer is that we must become face-to-face at scale. So if you're an old school person listening to me going, nope, there's no replacement for face-to-face, I say, good on you, because personalized video is face-to-face at scale. So the intention was never, ever to replace medical sales reps with some personalized video. That was never, ever, ever the replacement quota. Rather, personalized videos augment and supplement an overall approach. And here's what I know to be true. If you're a sales rep, and if you're listening to me, you know I'm speaking the truth. You're stuck in traffic, you're dropping off brochures, you're frustrated because your emails are going unanswered. I mean, nobody's going to fight me on that. But if your only option is to listen to a lack of leadership, go, just make more calls. Hashtag hustle, hashtag persistence. You're in trouble. And so you got an option. You can try to claim more daylight hours, and there's not enough windshield time or daylight time, or you can figure out how to be quote unquote face-to-face at scale. And that's what we teach at Medical Sales RX and Virtual Sales RX. But I'll share something with you, Claire. And this is I'm a medical sales guy, ride or die. I'm concerned that the people who sign up for Medical Sales RX, they are frontline people who are in boots on the ground. And in 4 years of doing this, I've only had 5 VP of sales ever even inquire about this. So my purpose of this podcast is not to bash former Matthew Scott, a former VP of sales. On the contrary, I'm just answering the question. And I know that you've got a huge following in medical sales. And so I'm not trying to position you against your sales leadership, but I'll ask you a question. How is what you're doing, how's that working for you?
Right.
And if your answer is not really well, not scalable, not sustainable, then forget Virtual Sales RX. Take it off the decision criteria for just a moment. Then my next question is what are you going to do next?
Powerful.
And I never receive a what are you going to do next answer from meaning I don't mean this in a confrontational way. It's just that when I ask that question, I go, okay, what's your game plan? There is no other game plan other than hashtag hustle, hashtag persistence, hashtag wait till our new technology comes into play next quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's powerful. And I feel that the most common thing that I hear, especially from my VPs and regional directors who also ride or die medical sales professionals, right? They will say, well, the thing is that access is impossible. I'm like, okay, well, what is the next step that you're taking? Well, obviously it's a relationship sale. We really just leverage these relationships. But though those relationships had been established earlier in the career, the access to develop new relationships is curtailed because of that access problem. So I almost see this as maybe like a siphoning off of the opportunity that we have to really be face-to-face and create those new relationships, because eventually those providers will retire, Right. And so will the professionals who've built the relationships with those providers providing that care. So it really, what you're doing is so powerful, and it comes at such a perfect time, because I don't think that in any stretch, physicians or providers are about to get any, less busy.
Yeah.
The contrary is true. So do you think that there is a certain threshold or a number of outreach? When you talk about scale, can you give us a little bit of a number around that people may be shooting for? What's that look like?
Yeah. So for your listening audience, I quote unquote never left medical sales, meaning 13 years ago, I stopped selling hip, knees, and spinal implants. And I started selling creative branding for physicians who wanted to be the specialists in their specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Our agency Feed has been doing that for 13 years. And so here's what I tell people. It's not like I left medical sales 13 years ago and like, oh, I can remember when I was schlepping implants, standing tall in the OR, having 272-pound nurses give me the stink eye. I know what that feels like. I never left that. What I've learned statistically is in the 4 years that we've been using personalized video, Claire, I can tell you the data on every video we've ever sent to a doctor. In fact, in preparation for this, let me give you the Cliff Notes. This is just me. This is not my team at Feed. This is not our team at Virtual Sales Rex. This is just me, Matthew Scott. In 4 years, I have sent 24,563 videos to doctors, not on LinkedIn. I mean, not me on LinkedIn creating a video for everybody, but to doctors. I'm averaging a 74.9% attention rate. And so what that means is that out of the aggregate of almost 25,000 videos, when I send it to Dr. Scratch and Sniff, on average, she or he will watch 75% of that video. Now, here's what that means. I know how to earn attention. And so what I did, Claire, was it's COVID. We're still locked down, etc. I began testing this for a full year. Just me and my team at Feed. Never taught this to anyone. Just let's test this. And we saw the dramatic statistical difference. We 3x'd increased consultations when quote unquote doctors weren't seeing anyone. We have doubled our business year over year. We are super scalable, as you might imagine, meaning we've got clients in China, Europe, Latin and South America, US, you name it. And they don't, and so what I've learned about that is they don't depend upon me to schedule an appointment with them between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. So the only difference is I'm using personalized video to tell them what I would have told them if they would have given me the time of day, which we know for a fact that doctors are going to continue to limit that access. So right now, Claire, there is someone listening to us right now upon this recording, and they are in a Honda Accord with 143,000 miles. There's a baby seat in the back with Cheeto stains on the back seat.
Yeah.
They're stuck in traffic and they're dropping off brochures to Gloria the Gatekeeper, who will say to them, if Dr. Scratch and Sniff is interested, he'll call you back. And so my response to everyone listening to us is not to be in your face. My response is what's your game plan?
Right.
And it works for all of us. It doesn't matter, here's what we were not taught. I was on an interview this morning with the team from Limitless Minds, and David Zay is a former Stryker rep who's now VP of sales, and Limitless Minds works with corporate athletes and helps to create mindset change. And so they were interviewing me today. And so he knows what it's like, knee replacement, hip replacement, et cetera. And we work with Limitless Minds. And we were talking through that progression. All we're doing is in 1 minute or a 2-minute video is we were giving away our best ideas for free. And this is impacting all of us, meaning it doesn't matter. You could be a local small business owner. The biggest challenge that all of us are facing is the front end of engagement, which is, how do I earn attention? And so, Claire, here's what you've done through your videos, knowingly or unknowingly. These are the videos that you create on LinkedIn. You give us an opportunity to watch you and listen to you, and you give us the opportunity to go, I think I know what she's about. Ooh, I really like what she had to say about this lesson learned in her life. I can find myself in her story or someone else's story. You know what? I trust Claire. So the pathway of know, like, and trust, let's get back to medical sales reps, has been interrupted because that doctor and that Gloria the gatekeeper, and no doubt about it, that OR purchasing director at the hospital, they are limiting your access.
Yes.
And everybody and their brother and sister is playing by outdated rules. And I submit to you that medical sales has not changed since I entered in 1994. And so what are we doing at Medical Sales RX? We are allowing trust to be your currency. We are teaching you how to send trust triggers at the speed of pressing send. And that's what's unique.
Outstanding. What I think is really powerful about this, not just the disruption of what has always been done, but that it allows our target, right? It allows whoever we're sending that video to really get to know this. And one of my favorite comments and one of my favorite things is when you do see someone on video and then you do have a chance to speak with them live or on a Zoom, and it's the same person you expected. It's like, it takes your level of trust from 1 to 9, like right off the bat. And I think that it really does allow people to get that sense of who you are. Like, we know we can trust Matthew Ray Scott because he is giving us the truth and his real perspective. And then when you interview him on today's Medical Sales Leader, he's the exact same guy that you saw doing videos on LinkedIn and sending them to your inbox. So it's such a joy. I love that this is transitioning this way, because if it weren't for people like you to explain and share best practices for creating things like this to really connect with people again, then there would be decision-making would only be, top down, right? And so I think it also really encourages this ability for people like physicians and those directors and those purchasing agents to connect specifically with the person they want to do business with, not just the product. Because who can connect with just the product? Nobody. That's exactly like we were trying to sell back in 1991. Yeah. So knowing you, and if anybody's not yet following Matthew, please do yourself a favor and connect with him today. Make sure you're following him on LinkedIn. Knowing you, everything you do has a really great core story behind it. And something you spoke about the other day on LinkedIn, if I can shift gears, was your own layoff story. And for those of you listening today, if you have been through a layoff, you know that I have been through multiple layoffs. I find it so inspiring when professionals like yourself, Matthew, can take the incredibly difficult situation of a layoff, find meaning in it, and choose to move forward. So can you walk us through what your layoff journey was, just to kind of share that with everybody today?
Yeah, I'll set the context. So part of my bio is I was a VP of sales of a biotech company that we sold for 16 times earnings. And right after that, I went into what I would simply call a mini retirement for 2 years. So my wife and I said, this is awesome. We're going to so what I mean to say by that is we didn't have enough money to retire at the age of 41, but my father, who was an entrepreneur, gave me some great advice, which is don't wait until you're 80 to retire. And so I took that and said, we're going to create a 2-year retirement. I went to culinary school and all kind of quirky stuff. But here's what happened, Claire, is my buddy, who was the CEO of that company, he flew out to Portland, Oregon, where we were living. And he said, all right, time to bring you back in. We've got this other company. And it was really on the cutting edge of the regenerative medicine space, dealing with cell therapy. And I love him. And so that was a no-brainer for me to do that. And just through the process of this, we had a sales team, a marketing team, and before you knew it, we were 150 some odd people, and had a clinical trial that did not go the way that we wanted it to go, et cetera. And the layoffs started to occur. Now, in my case, no harm, no foul, meaning if you don't have a product to sell, you need to get rid of sales and marketing so no heartache there.
Right.
So when that happened across the board for us, we have a beautiful office on Torrey Pines Beach, and so I was laid off. I went straight to lifeguard station number 4 at Torrey Pines Beach. That's where I go to provide clarity over the years. I mean, we've had a place in San Diego since, I don't know, 1999 or 2000, and lifeguard station number 4 always provides clarity for me. So I'm walking along the beach, and I refer to it as God. But I felt like God saying to me, hey, Matthew, it's not a pink slip. It's a blank page. And Claire, so I don't have the intelligence to think of those words. So it had to be God. And did you know that God speaks in a Southern accent? I don't know if you know that or not, but I just thought I'd reveal that.
I didn't know that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just thought I'd throw that out there in case people are wondering. It was like a beautiful Southern accent. But I honestly, on a serious note, I felt those words. And it let go any burden that I had about, my team being laid off, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, it was the push of the safest place that most of us can be is figuring out how to create a niche that solves an unmet problem that people will pay you for. And that's when I made the decision, I'm not going to work for anybody else. I'm going to take my chances. And that's when I created Feed. Now, here's what people need to know. The journey of having a loving push instead of a nudge is many of you right now, you are getting ready to be laid off, or you are laid off, and you are taking it personally. You think you were fired. You were not fired. You were laid off. There's a difference. You think, woe is me, when this is a wake-up call that goes something like this. If your default is to automatically go, I need to find another job, it's not that that's unhealthy. Rather, it is a wake-up call for you to go through a point of clarity that says, I've been given this gift of having a blank page. What will I write on my blank page? And I did that. I don't know if I've shared this story on an interview before, but I've shared it on LinkedIn. I bought a first-class ticket from San Diego to New York City and I bought a Moleskin notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole plan was I'm flying from San Diego into JFK. I'm going to step off the plane, stay in the airport, grab a glass of wine, grab a cup of coffee, immediately jump back on the plane and fly back to San Diego. Same day. And when I land in San Diego, that's my action plan.
Wow.
And so I did that. And people ask me like, it's a little bit quirky. What, why'd you do that? Why'd you do it in one day? And I go, because I know myself. I know what a procrastinator I am. I know how I can let logic go, go out and get another VP of sales job or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But what that trip taught me was symbolically, I was in action. I was in motion from San Diego to New York. Why New York City? Because I love New York City. New York City is where dreams go to be made. Now, I never ever left the airport by design. And I hopped back on that plane. And when I landed, it was the 17-hour window that I had some wind behind my back saying, you're going to be okay. And that's when I coined or created for me what I call, I'm going to be a lifestyle design entrepreneur. And that's the storyline behind it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I could just see you on that airplane so determinedly, like, this is it. And you know what, Matthew, that really strikes me is that sometimes, actually, I'll say it's most times, if not always, when I speak to somebody who has been laid off. So if anybody's listening here has been laid off and you are going through that dark place right now that we both know here, right? You're on the right podcast if you're listening today. And a few weeks later, if you ask them about it and how they're doing, more often than not, it will be, you know what? Actually, I'm glad it happened because
100%.
I had been meaning to make a change. Right? What I was doing wasn't fulfilling me anymore. I needed a fresh start. I didn't even know it. And that is such a beautiful story. I could like see you at that lifeguard station 4. And I hope that anybody listening today takes this to heart because Matthew's right. It's such an incredible reset. And you really can let your layoff be your launch pad for what it is you were meant to do and what you want to do. What I love about, selfishly, people ask me all the time, well, why do you only do resumes anymore for medical sales and healthcare professionals? And the reason is there is such a dyed in the wool grit and determination with people in this business. And first of all, it's completely contagious. So hopping on with people like Matthew Ray Scott, this is why we have so much fun. And we're just chatting on Zoom, right? But what I love about it is that we have for years been accustomed to learning how to market and promote and sell things, products, services, opportunities to our doctors to make them and their patients' lives easier. But we almost never remember to do it for our own career. So what's amazing about people in this industry and you in this story is that you had built up all of that kind of expertise. And then there was this tipping point where you said, now I'm going to use it for my own good. And of course you should.
And here's the part of the story that I really feel that, your listeners can resonate with. And so the best part of the story is not, well, it turned out good for you, Matthew. The best part of the story is that nobody asked me, which is, if you had not been laid off, where would you be? My answer is most likely with that company. So the question becomes why? Well, here's the why. Because I was quote unquote happy enough that I would have been loyal to my buddy. I was happy enough, quote unquote, because I was making a lot of money that I would have stayed in the pocket. I would have stayed right there. So what that taught me was literally and figuratively, God knew that I needed to be pushed off of lifeguard station number 4 into the deep end so that I would burn my boats at the harbor.
Mhm.
And when I told Claire, my best friends, what I was getting ready to do, their response went something like this. Hey, Matthew, you got a lot of good ideas. I'm just not sure this is one of them. And Claire, without breaking confidence, my best friend, a legend in medical device, was laid off last week.
Oh, no kidding.
And he called
Wow.
me. But here's the beautiful part of the story. He called me, my best friend called me, the most unlikely person you could ever imagine. He's a legend. And he got laid off.
Mhm.
And he called me. And what he told me was that my experience in sharing with people the process of being laid off was the greatest career move I ever made. It was the best
Wow.
career move that ever happened to me, was getting laid off. Is that he told me, outside of the context that we're best friends, he told me, Matthew, that laid down a perfect cross the chasm archway for me to go from here to there. And so my heart goes out to people that are being laid off.
Mhm.
But if you're listening to Claire and I, it is a blank page. It is not a pink slip. You didn't do anything wrong. You're not being punished.
Mhm.
It is a moment in time, a beautiful pause point for you to embrace discomfort temporarily for a season such as this. That's my
Mhm.
guidance.
I love it. Oh my goodness, Matthew, so after this conversation, I mean, just a couple of the takeaways that I've had from today, because clearly we need a round 2, because if we're going to talk about specific goal setting and how that actually helps to advance you to achieving them and manifesting those, that's a whole other ballgame, my friend. But a couple of things that I hope people really keyed in here today are on the hyper personalization of your content. So if you're sending a video, if you're sending a voice note, really doing that research ahead of time and knowing that you already understand these customers, or if you need to dig deeper, you can. But that hyper personalization and touching on that pain point is going to go so much farther than the traditional video and the script that you were told to follow over and over again. So that's number 1. Number 2, like Matthew said, if the advice you're getting is to make more calls, get in front of more doctors, please consider that there are other ways that you can better influence your customer, and also at scale. So that's a lot of what Matthew really is exceptional at, is not just what to say, but how to build a system for that so that you can continue to make that influence at a broader and broader scale with very specific strategies. So be sure to follow him today and figure those out. And finally, for any of you listening who've been through a layoff, like I have, like Matthew has, like his best friend has, know that it's not your fault. It's almost 99.999% a business decision, and one that you would likely make if you were forced to do the same. But it's an incredible opportunity to really recalibrate and ask yourself, why can't this be a moment of peace, a moment in time where you can reinvent your career and drive it in the direction that you're really meant to go? So Matthew, I am incredibly inspired by our conversation. I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. And because we're in front of an audience, and I'm hoping this will mean you'll say yes, how about a round 2? And we talk a little bit more about helping people achieve those goals through that layoff.
Yes, ma'am. Claire,
Awesome.
You're making a difference. People know, like, and trust you. You're giving away your best ideas for free. It's a winning formula.
Thanks so much. I feel very much the same. And for everyone here today who's as inspired as I am, where would you have them find you and reach out to you?
Say hi at Matthew Ray Scott. You know you're a good Southern boy when you have a middle name. Matthew Ray Scott on LinkedIn. Say, hey, I follow Claire. I learned from Claire. Uh, I saw you or I met you through Claire and just wanted to say hi. So that would be the
Awesome.
best.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Everyone, be sure to follow Matthew Ray Scott, mention this show, and we'll see you next week for another episode of today's Medical Sales Leader. Until then, take care, everybody.